Our planet is a world of water. From the vast ancient depths of Lake Baikal in Russia, the world's deepest and oldest, to the sprawling network of lakes that pepper the Canadian landscape, making it the country with more lakes than any other. These bodies of water are the lifeblood of our world. They are cradles of biodiversity, oases for countless species, and for humanity, they have always been sources of life, sustenance, and rejuvenation. They are vital, not just for the intricate ecosystems they support, but for our very own survival. What do you picture when you hear the word lake? Perhaps it's a scene of tranquil beauty, a place for a refreshing swim on a summer's day, or a cherished holiday spot filled with joyful memories. For most of us, lakes represent peace and serenity. But nature, in all its wonder, possesses a dual character. Some of its most beautiful creations hide the most profound dangers. Beneath the shimmering surfaces of certain lakes, a deadly secret lies in wait. These are not places for bathing or vacationing. They are silent killers, watery graves, home to strange, almost alien phenomena, and some are even explosive. These are not the waters of life, but of death. They are nature's exceptions, geological anomalies that can turn on a community in an instant, leaving devastation in their wake. We have gathered for you the ones you'd better not go into. The world's most eerie lakes. Their stories are a stark reminder of the raw, untamable power that slumbers just beneath the surface of our world. Like and subscribe to help this video find its audience and grow. We begin our journey in the Great Rift Valley, on the border of Tanzania and Kenya. Here, under the shadow of the volcano Oldoinyo Lengai, lies a body of water so alien, it feels like a landscape from another world. This is Lake Natron. At first glance, it appears almost beautiful, its shallow waters often blushing with a deep spectral red, a stark contrast to the arid, sun-scorched earth that surrounds it. One might be tempted to approach, to feel its waters. That would be a grave mistake. Lake Natron is not a place of life as we know it. It is a hypersaline soda lake. Its waters are a caustic cocktail of sodium carbonate and other minerals that flow down from the surrounding hills. This creates an environment of extreme alkalinity, with a pH level reaching over 10.5, almost as corrosive as ammonia. For most living things, contact with this water is fatal. It can burn the skin and eyes of animals not adapted to it, and the experience would be excruciating. The lake's most haunting feature, however, is its gallery of the dead. Along its shores, you can find the most macabre statues, perfectly preserved creatures frozen in time. Birds, bats, and other animals that have the misfortune of falling into the lake are essentially turned to stone. The high concentration of sodium carbonate acts as a remarkable preservative, calcifying their bodies and leaving them in the exact positions they were in at their moment of death. It is a silent stone menagerie, a testament to the lake's lethal power. These petrified remains are a chilling sight. A bat with its wings outstretched, as if in mid-flight. A dove, perfectly poised on a branch that has dipped into the water. They look like props from a horror film, yet they are tragically real. The artist here is chemistry. The process is a form of mummification, encasing the soft tissues in a hard mineral shell, creating these eerie, lifelike sculptures that line the water's edge. It's why some call it the Lake of Death. And yet, in this seemingly inhospitable world, life finds a way. One creature has not only adapted to this hostile environment, but has thrived here, transforming the lake into a crucial part of its life cycle. This creature is the lesser flamingo. For these remarkable birds, the deadly waters of Lake Natron are its sanctuary. The extreme alkalinity that deters almost all other life forms means that predators cannot approach their nesting sites. The flamingos build their nests on the small islands of salt that emerge from the water as it evaporates during the dry season. Here, they are safe. The caustic mud and water create a natural fortress, protecting their eggs and their young from any land-based threats. It is a remarkable example of adaptation, of life finding a niche in the most extreme of conditions. The site is truly one of nature's great spectacles. Up to 2.5 million lesser flamingos can gather here to breed, painting the lake's surface in a vibrant, moving tapestry of pink. The air fills with their calls, a cacophony of life in a place defined by death.
It is the world's most important breeding site for this species, a crucial nursery that ensures the survival of the next generation. The flamingos have evolved specific adaptations to cope with their toxic home. They have tough, leathery skin on their legs to protect them from the burns. They can drink water from the less alkaline springs and geysers that feed the lake. And they even have special glands in their heads that help them excrete the excess salt they ingest. It is a masterclass in evolution. This dual identity is what makes Lake Natron so fascinating.
It is both a place of death and a cradle of life. For the unfortunate animals that stray into its waters, it is a quick and certain end, a transformation into a stone monument. But for the flamingos, it is the flamingo factory, the only place on Earth where they can safely raise their young on such a massive scale, free from the pressures of predation. The red color of the lake itself is another sign of this strange, resilient life. It is not a chemical stain, but the result of salt-loving microorganisms and algae, specifically cyanobacteria. These tiny organisms flourish in the saline conditions and contain photosynthetic pigments that give the water its otherworldly hue. It is these very same microorganisms that provide the primary food source for the flamingos. So the birds are not just nesting here, they are feasting. They use their specialized filter-feeding beaks to consume the spirulina algae, which in turn gives them their iconic pink color. The entire ecosystem, as harsh as it is perfectly balanced. The volcano provides the minerals create the alkalinity supports the algae, and the algae feeds the flamingos. But the lake's temperature adds another layer of danger. The water can reach scorching temperatures of up to 60 degrees Celsius, or 140 degrees Fahrenheit. It is a hot, chemical bath. The air shimmers with heat, and the smell of sulfur can hang heavy in the air, a constant reminder of the volcanic forces that have shaped this landscape. For humans, the lake is almost entirely off limits. The risk of severe chemical burns is too great. Only researchers, equipped with protective gear, dare to venture close to its waters to study its unique chemistry and biology. They are visitors in a realm not meant for them, observing a delicate balance between life and death. The local Maasai people have lived in this region for centuries and hold a deep respect for the lake. They understand its power and its danger. Their folklore is rich with stories about the lake's spirit and the creatures it has claimed. For them, it is a sacred, powerful place, a source of the minerals they use, but one to be treated with the utmost caution. The future of this unique ecosystem is fragile. Climate change, potential soda ash mining, and hydroelectric projects on the rivers that feed the lake all pose a threat. A change in the water's chemistry or volume could have a catastrophic impact on the flamingos' breeding grounds, potentially wiping out the world's largest population. The stone creatures of Lake Natron serve as a powerful warning. They are a permanent exhibition of the lake's unforgiving nature. They remind us that what appears to be a flaw, a deadly characteristic, can, in the grand theater of evolution, become the very thing that allows a unique and beautiful form of life to flourish against all odds. This duality is the essence of nature's complexity. A single place can be a haven and a hell, a nursery and a graveyard. Lake Natron is perhaps the most dramatic example of this on our planet. It is a place of stark, haunting beauty and profound danger, where life and death are locked in a strange and delicate embrace. As we leave this remarkable place, the image of 1,000,000 pink birds against a blood-red lake, surrounded by the calcified bodies of the less fortunate, is one that is hard to forget. It is a powerful reminder that in the natural world, survival is often a matter of finding refuge where no one else dares to look. We now travel far to the north, to the Ural Mountains of Russia, a region shrouded in the secrecy of the Cold War. Here, hidden from the world for decades, lies a lake that holds a terrifying distinction. It is not nature that has made this lake deadly, but humanity. This is Lake Karachay, widely considered to be the most polluted place on the face of the earth. It is a place where the water itself is a weapon. From a distance, on a bleak day, Karachay might look like any other small, unassuming lake, but to stand on its shore for just a single hour would be to receive a lethal dose of radiation. This is not a natural phenomenon. It is the direct result of decades of reckless disregard for safety and the environment at one of the Soviet Union's largest nuclear facilities, the Mayak Production Association. Mayak was built in haste in the late 1940s. a cornerstone of the Soviet atomic bomb project. Its purpose was to produce plutonium. In the frantic race for nuclear supremacy, environmental concerns were not just secondary, they were non-existent. For years, the facility dumped high-level radioactive waste directly into the Teka River, contaminating the water source for tens of thousands of people downstream. When this became untenable, they sought a new solution, one they believed was contained. They chose Lake Karachay. Starting in 1951, the lake was officially designated as a dumping ground for intermediate and high-level radioactive waste. It was seen as a small, isolated basin with no surface outlets, a seemingly perfect natural container for some of the most dangerous substances known to man. This decision would turn a small, pristine lake into a simmering cauldron of radioactive isotopes. Over the next 4 decades, an estimated 4.44 exabecquerels of radioactivity were poured into this tiny body of water. To put that into perspective, that is a quantity of radiation far exceeding the total amount released during the Chernobyl disaster. Chernobyl spread its poison across a continent. Maya concentrated it into a single, terrifying point. The consequences of this atomic cocktail were catastrophic. The lakebed became a sludge of radioactive sediment several meters thick. The water glowed with an eerie blue light, a phenomenon known as Cherenkov radiation, caused by charged particles moving faster than the speed of light through the water. It was a beautiful, mesmerizing effect produced by a deadly, invisible poison. The danger was not confined to the water itself. In 1967, a severe drought struck the region. As the lake's water level receded, vast areas of the radioactive lakebed were exposed to the sun and wind. The toxic sediment dried into a fine dust. A powerful windstorm then swept across the exposed shoreline, picking up this deadly dust and carrying it across the landscape. This single event, known as the Black Wind, spread an enormous amount of radioactive material over an area of nearly 2,700 square kilometers. It was a silent, invisible sandstorm of death, irradiating an estimated 500,000 people. It was a disaster on the scale of Chernobyl, yet it remained a state secret, unknown to the outside world for decades. The contamination of Lake Karachay represents a level of pollution that is almost incomprehensible. The primary culprits are long-lived isotopes like strontium-90 and cesium-137. These elements have half-lives of about 30 years, meaning they remain dangerously radioactive for centuries. They mimic calcium and potassium in the body, embedding themselves in bone and tissue and irradiating a person from the inside out. For the workers at Mayak and the residents of nearby towns like Ozyorsk, life was lived under a constant and invisible threat. The true extent of the health crisis was hidden by the state, but rates of cancer, birth defects, and other radiation-related illnesses skyrocketed. The area became known grimly as the graveyard of the Earth. Even after the dumping stopped, the lake remained an open wound on the planet. The fear was that the contaminated water could seep into the groundwater and eventually reach the Teka River and the Arctic Ocean, creating an international environmental disaster. The lake was a ticking time bomb, a concentrated point of poison that threatened to spread. Recognizing the immense and ongoing danger, a monumental effort began in the late 1970s to kill the lake. The plan was to fill it in completely, to entomb the radioactive sludge under a mountain of concrete and rock. Over several decades, engineers filled the lake basin with thousands of hollow concrete blocks, followed by layers of rock and soil. The process was slow, difficult, and incredibly dangerous for the workers involved. They were fighting an invisible enemy, working in one of the most hazardous environments imaginable. The goal was to create a stable, permanent sarcophagus that would prevent the radioactive dust from blowing away and the contaminated water from leaching into the groundwater. By 2015, the work was largely complete. Lake Karachay was gone, erased from the map. In its place now sits a dry, slightly raised landscape, monitored by sensors. It looks like a nondescript patch of industrial wasteland, but beneath the surface, the poison remains. It is not gone, it is merely buried. The concrete sarcophagus is a temporary solution in geological time. The radioactive isotopes beneath it will remain deadly for thousands of years. The structure must be monitored and maintained indefinitely. Humanity has created a problem that will outlast our civilizations, a permanent toxic legacy that we have bequeathed to the distant future. The story of Lake Karachay is a terrifying cautionary tale. It is a story of the hubris of the atomic age, of the devastating environmental cost of the arms race. It shows what happens when technological ambition completely overrides any sense of responsibility to the natural world and to future generations. Unlike Lake Natron, whose danger is a product of natural geology, Karachay's lethality is entirely man-made. It is a monument to our own capacity for self-destruction. The very ground here is saturated with an invisible fire that will burn for centuries, a silent testament to the darkest moments of the Cold War. Visiting the site today is impossible for the general public. It remains part of a closed, highly secure nuclear zone. Even for scientists, access is strictly controlled. The area is a permanent exclusion zone, a scar on the landscape that may never fully heal. The concrete blocks are like tombstones, marking the grave of a lake we murdered. The legacy of Karachay extends beyond the buried lake itself. The entire region around the Mayak facility is heavily contaminated. The Techa River, the villages along its banks, the forests and fields, all bear the invisible scars of decades of radioactive pollution. It is a landscape poisoned from its very core. As we reflect on this place, it is a stark reminder that some of the greatest dangers we face are not from the wildness of nature, but from the consequences of our own actions. Lake Karachay is not an eerie natural wonder. It is an industrial accident site on a planetary scale. It is a place that should never have existed, a symbol of a price that should never have been paid. Our final destination takes us to the West African nation of Cameroon, to a region of volcanic hills and lush greenery. Nestled within this landscape is a lake that, for most of its existence, appears to be the very definition of tranquility. This is Lake Nyos. It sits in a mare, a crater formed by a violent volcanic eruption centuries ago. Its deep, still waters are a brilliant, inviting blue. But on one fateful night, this peaceful lake revealed a terrifying secret. On the evening of August 21st, 1986, the villages surrounding Lake Nyos were settling down for the night. Life was proceeding as normal. Farmers tended to their cattle. Families gathered for their evening meals. There was no warning, no earthquake, no obvious sign of impending doom. There was only a strange rumbling sound that seemed to emanate from the lake itself, a sound that some survivors later described as being like thunder. What followed was not a flood or an eruption of lava. It was something far more insidious. A massive cloud of gas, heavier than air, burst from the lake's depths. This invisible cloud, silent and odorless, rolled down the hillsides and into the surrounding valleys. It was a dense fog of death, hugging the ground and flowing like a river into the sleeping villages of Nyos, Kam, and Subum. The gas was carbon dioxide. It is a gas we exhale with every breath, a vital part of our planet's atmosphere. But in high concentrations, it is a deadly asphyxiant. The cloud from Lake Nyos displaced the oxygen in the air. As it swept through the villages, it silently suffocated almost everything in its path. People and animals simply fell unconscious where they were. Their lungs starved of the air they needed to survive. The next morning, the few survivors awoke to a scene of unimaginable horror. The villages were silent. There were no birds singing, no cattle lowing. The world was still. All around them lay the bodies of their families, their neighbors, and their livestock. Over 1,700 people and more than 3,500 animals perished in a single night. They had died in their sleep, without a struggle, victims of an invisible killer that had emerged from the serene lake. So, what happened? How could a seemingly peaceful lake unleash such a catastrophe? Lake Nyos is what is known as a limnically active lake, or an exploding lake. It is one of only a handful of such lakes in the world. Its unique danger comes from its location directly above a pocket of magma deep within the earth. This magma constantly leaks carbon dioxide gas, which seeps up through the lake bed and dissolves into the cold water at the bottom. Because the lake is very deep and its water is strongly stratified, with layers that do not mix, this dissolved gas can build up to enormous concentrations over decades or even centuries. The immense pressure of the water column above keeps the gas trapped in solution, much like the carbonation in a sealed bottle of soda. The bottom layers of Lake Nyos had become a supersaturated, high-pressure reservoir of CO2. On that tragic night in 1986, something disturbed this fragile equilibrium. The trigger is still debated by scientists. It could have been a landslide into the lake, a small volcanic tremor, or even just the gradual buildup of gas reaching a critical tipping point. Whatever the cause, it initiated a chain reaction. A small amount of the deep, gas-rich water was displaced upwards into a zone of lower pressure. As the pressure decreased, the dissolved CO2 began to come out of solution, forming bubbles. This is the same process you see when you open a bottle of champagne. This initial bubbling further displaced more deep water, bringing it upwards and causing even more gas to be released. This triggered a runaway process known as a limnic eruption. In a matter of moments, a colossal volume of gas erupted from the lake. The eruption was incredibly violent. It is estimated that over 1 cubic kilometer of carbon dioxide gas burst from the lake's surface. The force of the eruption created a fountain of water that shot over 100 meters into the air and generated a small tsunami that washed over the lake's shore. And then, the deadly, invisible cloud began its silent descent upon the unsuspecting valleys below. The aftermath was surreal. The lake itself had changed color from a clear blue to a murky, reddish-brown. The eruption had churned up the iron-rich sediment from the bottom. The air had a strange, acrid smell, and the silence was absolute. It was a devastation that left no rubble, no fire, only the still bodies of its victims. It was as if a neutron bomb had been detonated, killing all life but leaving the structures intact. The world was shocked by the scale and the bizarre nature of the disaster. It was a type of natural disaster that had never been documented on this scale before. Scientists from around the globe flocked to Cameroon to understand what had happened and, more importantly, to prevent it from happening again. They discovered that Lake Nyos was not alone. A nearby lake, Lake Monoun, had experienced a similar, smaller eruption 2 years earlier, killing 37 people. The immediate concern was that Lake Nyos was already recharging. The magma below continued to feed CO2 into its depths. Scientists calculated that without intervention, the lake could build up enough gas for another, potentially even larger eruption within a matter of decades. The surviving population, who had returned to their homes, were living on borrowed time, under the constant threat of their lake. This led to one of the most remarkable feats of geological engineering in recent history, the Lake Nyos degassing project. The solution was simple in concept, but incredibly difficult and dangerous to execute. The plan was to install a pipe that would run from the surface down to the gas-saturated layers at the bottom of the lake. The idea was to use the lake's own power to save itself. By initially pumping a small amount of the deep water up the pipe, they could start the degassing process. As that water rose and the pressure dropped, the CO2 would form bubbles. This mixture of water and gas is less dense than the water around it, creating a self-sustaining fountain. The deep, gas-rich water would then continuously flow up the pipe and release its CO2 safely into the atmosphere in a controlled, harmless stream. After years of planning and international collaboration, the first degassing pipe was installed in 2001. As it was activated, a spectacular fountain of water and gas shot into the air, a controlled version of the deadly eruption. It was a sign that the system was working. The lake was finally being given a safety valve, a way to release the immense pressure building within it. Since then, more pipes have been installed in both Lake Nyos and Lake Monoun. These pipes now run constantly, tirelessly bleeding the carbon dioxide from the lake's depths. They are a permanent fixture, a man-made solution to a deadly natural phenomenon. The risk has been significantly reduced, but it has not been eliminated. The project requires constant monitoring and maintenance. The pipes can clog, and the equipment can fail. The local population has been educated about the dangers, and early warning systems have been put in place. But the magma below continues its work, a relentless source of the gas that turned these beautiful lakes into silent killers. The story of Lake Nyos is a dramatic illustration of a hidden geological threat. It reminds us that even the most serene landscapes can harbor unimaginable power. It is a tale of tragedy, of scientific discovery, and of human ingenuity in the face of a terrifying natural force. The fountains that now grace the surface of the lake are not just for show. They are the guardians of the valleys, a constant, visible reminder of the invisible danger that still lurks in the deep. We look at these lakes, so calm on the surface, and it is difficult to comprehend the immense, explosive pressure they once held. The Lake of 1,000 Deaths has been tamed, for now, but it serves as a chilling reminder that our planet is a dynamic, and at times, a very dangerous place to live. The silent rumbling that preceded the 1986 disaster is a sound that will forever haunt the memory of this region. From the petrifying waters of Natron to the atomic grave of Karachay and the explosive depths of Nios, we have journeyed to some of the planet's most treacherous corners. These lakes, each deadly in its own unique way, challenge our perception of water as a benign force of life. They are extreme examples, geological and man-made anomalies, but they serve as powerful allegories for the raw and often hidden power of the natural world. They teach us that beauty can be deceptive, and serenity can mask a profound threat. These stories are not just tales of danger, they are also stories of life's incredible resilience and humanity's capacity for both destruction and innovation. We see life flourish in the caustic brine of Natron. We witness the terrifying legacy of our own actions at Karachay, and we marvel at the ingenuity that tamed the explosive anger of Nios. They are a testament to the complex, and sometimes fraught, relationship between our species and our planet. They remind us of the importance of understanding the forces we live with. As we stand in awe of nature's wonders, we must also approach it with a deep and abiding respect for its power. The world is full of places that command caution, places whose stories are written not just in history books, but in the very chemistry of their water and the geology of their basins. These lakes are a warning, whispered from the deep. They remind us that there are still mysteries to unravel and forces at play that are far greater than ourselves, demanding our humility, our curiosity, and our care.